What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the next episode of Drive Through Dialogue, where we continue with our last debate, the ethanol blending program. The last episode of DTD walked us through what EBP was all about and how E20 blended fuel could potentially be a silent threat for all non-E20 compatible vehicles. But why is it that only the Indian car buyers are so frustrated with this rollout wherein nearly 80 countries worldwide are already using ethanol blended fuel? To understand that, we need to head back to the initial timeline laid down by the central government for systematically phasing in ethanol blended fuel for all mass market vehicles. As per the initial timeline, India achieved a nationwide E10 compliancy by June 2022. Back then, a nationwide E20 compliancy was expected to be achieved by 2030. But to a nationwide awe, this milestone was achieved in a span of mere 3 years, letting the nation witness its official E20 mandate to roll out with effect from 1st April 2025. Now, some may say it's a great accomplishment for the government for achieving it in such a short duration, right? To answer this better, let's do a phase-wise segregation of the two most critical facets of this event and what all the government did to control both. Phase 1: Vehicle Compatibility. In the last episode, we discussed about what material compatibility was and how would it impact any E10 compatible vehicle fed with E20 blended fuel. To mitigate that, in April 2023, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways rolled out a nationwide mandate to all the mass market automakers to make their vehicles E20 material compliant. Now, as per the report published by IBB in 2023, the average lifespan of a vehicle owned in India is approximately 4 to 6 years before it gets resold and 12 to 13 years before it's completely scrapped. According to this data, rolling out E20 by 2030 made a complete sense, as a majority of the E10 compatible vehicles sold before 2023 would either have been resold or achieved a handsome tenuity with a single owner, making it that much easier to convince them for an upgrade. On top of that, majority of the vehicles on Indian streets would already be E20 material compliant, enabling for a hassle-free transition for the common man. But this is where the government failed big time. Why so? On April 1st, 2025, when E20 was mandated across India, approximately 80% of the vehicles were still E10 material compliant. To make it even difficult, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas refuted from any plans of selling E10 blended petrol alongside E20 fuel. Now, the government very conveniently states that XP100 petrol is available for those hesitant of pouring E20 fuel in their non-compatible vehicles. But the irony is, this convenience would inconveniently cost you 167 to 170 rupees per litre. Now, even if you have deep enough pockets to spend that much on just to commute from one place to another, finding a retailer selling XP100 petrol is like finding a needle in a haystack. To top it all, this inconvenience spreads over to all those commercial vehicle operators relying on E10 compatible petrol powered workhorses. For them, it's not just a vehicle, but a source of livelihood where every kilometer worth of mileage matters. Now I see a lot of people rubbing off the facts with reasonings, E20 hasn't harmed my vehicle yet. A one-liner befitting to all those would be, while ignorance is a bliss, delusion can be costly. There is a reason why automakers put this mark on every non-E20 compatible production vehicle. A comparatively new or well-maintained vehicle might not show any early signs of damage or wear and tear. However, constant exposure to E20 fuel can potentially lead to damaged fuel pump, fuel lines, injectors, extending to corrosion in metal parts and varnish buildup in engine components. Even the fuel storage life decreases simply because the components like fuel hoses and lines, gaskets and O-rings, fuel pumps, etc. are not compliant enough to hold a higher ethanol blend in petrol. The second phase, fuel storage and transportation compatibility. While many of us haven't had given a flying rabbit on how the fuel gets to the petrol pumps or how is it even stored in their reservoirs before it gets poured into our cars, but the E20 rollout might just have compelled us to increase our awareness. The most important and critical aspect of ethanol is its hygroscopic nature, which is its ability to attract moisture to bond with water, leaving the petrol behind. A phenomenon which majority of the people didn't know before we actually witnessed it. So what does it have to do with the petrol pump retailers? The major challenge which the majority of petrol pump retailers are facing right now is with having to isolate E20 blended fuel from getting exposed to the slightest amount of moisture which may trigger the phase separation. In India, we know our infrastructural limitations, let's not go there. But the major problem is with the existing retail tanks and pipelines which were originally engineered for conventional fuel rather than high ethanol blended fuel. Moreover, there are no standard guidelines or compensation structures defined by the OMCs on how to safely store E20 fuel or discard contaminated fuel water mixtures. As a result, majority of the petrol pump retailers have expressed their distress with handling E20 fuel. But after all, why is this happening? The answer to that is hurried implementation without proper quality check-ins and sample testings. While other countries took their time to get the retail units up the curb for handling such a complicated fuel, India hurried to pre-achieve the desired timeline without proper phase-wise testings and sample rollouts. So I hope by now it's pretty much clear to all those who have stayed this far with the video that EBP program was a complete failure when it came to its implementation. While other governments took this project for years, India, despite of having global examples, failed to replicate a change already implemented worldwide. It's really hard for me to fathom that why there was a need to jump the curb for increasing the ethanol blend from 10 to 20% when the government had all the stats in place indicating towards a nationwide jeopardy. Instead, the government should have invested on building better infrastructure alongside initiating soft launch projects for real world data population. Meanwhile, training and educating the masses, especially petrol pump vendors and operators, for a better handling of this fuel to avoid contamination and unnecessary lossage. But the most important of all was giving the average Indian car owner that chance of gradually stepping into the E20 phase rather having to be forcefully shoved in. But I think there's no point in giving suggestions here. Over the years, we have seen that the automotive industry in India has always been an afterthought when it comes to innovation or implementation of new tech. Even our government has been reluctant in inviting global brands and in-house industrial setups. But this E20 rollout has topped the charts in putting a whammy on the Indian auto industry. Moreover, it is for all those auto enthusiasts out there currently holding onto their prized machineries before they get completely choked by this clean fuel. So this is it for today. Hope the presentation was simple enough to clear the air around E20 fuel and its implications. In case you like the content, please hit the like button and share it with those who might need this insight. A sub to the channel would motivate us to keep going and bring such intricate content for you all. Thanks for watching. We'll see you around in the next video. Till then, keep motoring while staying tuned to Aspirated Lines.